They say there's a crisis on the U.S. southern border. How about we talk to some of the people who live there? That's what we're going to do on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, I'm Chuck Holton. Thanks for being with us today. I am en route to the U.S. southern border right now, and I'm going to be doing some reporting all week on what's going on this unfolding crisis. And yes, it is a crisis on the southern border of the United States. But today I want to bring in my good friend Ed Ashurst. He's a cowboy that has lived on the U.S. southern border, that runs a ranch that borders Mexico and has for many, many years. And if anybody knows what's going on down there, it's this guy, Ed Ashurst. So you can turn on CNN and you can listen to journalists interview each other, or you can listen to the Hot Zone and get exclusive reporting that nobody else is giving you. That's what's happening right here on the Hot Zone. Check it out.
I'm a writer. I like books. I read books. And the highest selling book of all time, with the exception of the Bible, is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I'm going to give you a tale of two ranches. In Presidio County, Texas, am I leaning on you, Erica?
No, you're good. You're fine. Go for it.
In Presidio County, Texas, there is a very famous cattle ranch owned by a fellow named Jim White and his family. It's called the Bright Ranch, B-R-I-T-E. It's been in the same family for about 130 years. I don't know exactly. I have been there to that ranch. I've done a considerable amount of business with them, bought about 3 semi-loads of bred replacement heifers and some herd bulls. And in the course of the last 15 years, I became good friends with these people. Jim White and his family have suffered tremendously because of the narco Mexican combatants like Teresa was talking about. Their property has been molested, they've been molested, and I could tell stories all day long. Jim White is an interesting guy, one of my favorite people, and in his paraphrased own words, he said, I got to thinking about it. I was mad all the time. I was tired of being angry. I was tired of being molested. I was tired of the incompetence of the federal government. And I realized I was part of the problem. And he said, I decided that instead of being part of the problem, I wanted to be part of the solution. And so Jim White, he locked all the gates to his ranch, very large cattle ranch, and he left one gate open on the south end of his ranch. If the Border Patrol wanted access, they had to go down to the border and come in from the south. They didn't like that. They fought him on that. He took a considerable fortune of his own money and created a large Buckeye camera system on his property with real-time live photos going into his computer in his home. And he started helping the Border Patrol track these Mexican narco combatants that were crossing his ranch. Then, with the help of the congressman in that congressional district, a gentleman named Will Hurd, he became in contact with a company in Southern California named Anduril, A-N-D-U-R-I-L. The folks at Anduril had created some new radar technology where they could hone in, and I'm not a techie guy, so I'm probably saying this wrong, but they could hone in on an object, get GPS coordinates on it, and track it, and take real-time photos sent into wherever, and they wanted to sell it to the Border Patrol, they wanted to sell it to the government. The Border Patrol has technology similar to this, but it doesn't work, whether it's out of date or incompetence, I'm not sure. But the folks at Anduril needed a place to test their equipment. So with Will Hurd's help, they came to the Bright Ranch and they set up, I believe it was 3 of these radar facilities. They're quite mobile. They're a lot smaller than the Border Patrols, and they're about 10,000 times more effective. They taught Jim White how to maintain them and use them. This was about 15 or 16 months ago. In 3 weeks, they caught 4,200 pounds of dope. I don't know how many hundred of aliens. And within a month, they had totally shut the traffic on the Bright Ranch down. Not 80%, 90%, but 100%. Now, the significance of this is very important. Jim White did not use 1 cent of your money. He took the bull by the tail, took time that he could have been doing other things on his ranch, took his own money, and he solved the problem. It's been 15 or 16 months. I talked to him this morning. He was going to be here today, but he had some problems on his ranch and couldn't be here. But I asked him, so tell me again, he told me a couple weeks ago, he says, so how effective is it? He says, we have a 100% effective rate. Jim White and his family and his employees, they know how to track. They know what tracks look like, and they know their ranch. When he gets a real-time photo on his computer screen, the technology has GPS coordinates. It is able to hone in on a person and follow them down a canyon or across the flat, whatever. He emails that information to the United States Border Patrol. He goes to the north end of his ranch, unlocks the gate, and he takes them down there, and they catch every single one of them. Now, the government and its employees are going to say, well, that's just one place. You know, they're just going around him. No. All of us cowboys here, John Ladd, the Keelers, the Johnsons, Gary Thrasher, numerous others, will tell you, to my knowledge, this has never been done. And they didn't use any of your money. Okay, a tale of another ranch in Naco, Arizona, Cochise County, Arizona. From Naco to the San Pedro River is about 13 miles. 10 and a half of those miles is the southern boundary of the San Jose Ranch, which is owned by the Ladd family. John Ladd and his beautiful wife, Jo Beth, are sitting right down here. 2 of my best friends. In the town of Naco, adjacent to the Ladd Ranch fence, is a brand new Border Patrol station that cost you $50 million. It has an indoor shooting range that cost you $15 million. There is a powder magazine there with enough ammunition to kill every narco in the state of Sonora. There is a dirt road that is as wide as this room that you can drive a Ford pickup down 70 miles an hour. You can be from the Brian Terry Station to the San Pedro River in 11 or 12 minutes. There is, on the southern boundary of Ladd Ranch, the Roosevelt easement, the best fence that has been made to date. In places it's 18 foot high. The least it is 10 or 12? 10. Just lately, they've put up razor wire on it. The traffic across the Ladd Ranch has never stopped. In the last 30 years, there has been 3 million illegal aliens cross John Ladd's property. That's documented. Since February of 2012, there have been 53 drive-through Dodge diesel 3/4 ton crew cab pickups with 1,500 pounds of dope cross John Ladd's ranch And the Border Patrol has not caught one of them. That's a fact. I'm not promoting anything but the facts. Those are facts. There is 3 multi-million-dollar cameras on 85-foot towers on the Ladd Ranch that are supposed to send real-time pictures into the Brian Terry Station, which is on the edge of the Ladd Ranch. There are hundreds of electronic sensors, ground sensors on the Ladd Ranch. There is a mobile camera unit and an MSC unit, and hundreds of Border Patrol agents. The traffic has never stopped. In the last few years, it is documented that the federal government has spent $54 million of your dollars on the Ladd Ranch, and the traffic has never stopped. So, in Presidio County, we have the Bright Ranch, a Texan cowboy. I hate to admit it, man, them Texans can brag. He took the bull by the tail with his own money, and he shut the traffic down. In Cochise County, we have the federal government spending $54 million, and the traffic has never stopped. Those are facts, I'm sorry. What's the difference? The difference is motivation. Jim White is motivated. The federal government is not motivated. It's as simple as that. Okay, moving on. I have, in August of 2010, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North came to my house to film a War Stories episode that I was in. Cochise County Sheriff Larry Deaver brought him there. North had with him an individual by the name of Chuck Holton. Chuck Holton had been an Army Ranger, was in the Black Hawk Down unit. I believe he was involved in the invasion of Panama when they captured Noriega. Chuck had got acquainted with North, and he became his cameraman. He also edited some of North's books. He also is author of 6 or 7 books of his own. He also is an independent war correspondent. He works for numerous media outlets. Chuck and North, for years and years, have gone all over the world filming war stories and turmoil on an international scale. They don't go to Tahiti and film the girls in bikinis drinking Corona beer. They go to Mogadishu, Baghdad, Kabul, and places like that. About 2 months ago, when Russ first called me and asked me to do this, I started gathering information. I called Chuck. I said, "Where are you at?" He says, "I'm on the border in Iraq, and we're sneaking into Syria tomorrow to film what's going on there." I asked him to be here today, but right today, he's in the Ukraine filming the unrest there. Chuck is probably the most knowledgeable guy about international politics, war, and suffering of anybody I know. When the caravans first got started, however many months ago it was, Chuck was sent to southern Mexico to research and find out what was going on. He spent quite a bit of time down there, several weeks, and he just roamed around talking to people, trying to be incognito and gathering data. He wrote a lengthy report, and I have a copy of it here. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read several paragraphs here. So listen closely. This is about the caravans. The migrants are not being paid to join the caravan, but they are being organized, encouraged, and supported in their trek. Organized by opposition political elements within Honduras who are themselves supported by Venezuela. Many people I spoke to today joined the trek because they saw the advertising for it on social media and heard about it on the local news in Honduras. They are being organized by a consortium of left-wing pro-immigration groups, including the United Nations, International Organization for Migration, whose mission statement states, IOM is dedicated to promoting humans and orderly migration for the benefit of all. Also, the International Migration Institute, a Soros-funded organization, gives money to the Alianza Americana, who has been tweeting from Mexico, showing their group supporting the caravan. The Honduran and Guatemalan governments are officially discouraging this irregular migration, but have little to lose by it happening, since even in Honduras, if Honduras loses the 60 million or so they get annually from the US government, the money Hondurans in the US send back to Honduras accounts for nearly 20% of their total GDP. There are probably at least hundreds of people in this caravan who have been to the United States before and have been deported at least once, which would make them felons. 2 guys I talked to today had been deported 4 times. I have footage of one of them admitting to being deported. There are international observers who are following this convoy and claim to be impartial and only there to observe. I watched them insert themselves between police and immigration agents and the caravan today and defend the caravan. They are not impartial. 2 were from Spain, from the Swedish Fellowship of Reconciliation, and 1 from Mexico. This year, I have spent significant time in Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, and while the conditions in Honduras are certainly poor and there are problems with gangs, the vast majority of those people would not qualify for asylum in the United States. If these migrants are allowed to enter the US, why shouldn't the other 9 million Hondurans head north also? Chuck, after being there, little time went by and he came to El Paso and he went across to Juarez and he filmed migrants who had been stopped there and had not been successful in crossing, and at that point they had been deserted by these left-wing pro-immigration organizations, and they had at that point became pawns in those people's hands who are masters at maximizing people's misery, and by filming and reporting on that, they were able to make political points in Washington, D.C. There were reportedly about 400 of these migrants in the caravans ended up in Agua Prieta, Sonora, which is close to where I live. The local narcos there didn't want them there. They didn't want them setting the apple cart in their local system, so they rounded them up and put them in a makeshift concentration camp on the south side of town. You didn't hear that on CNN, did you? There are, from reports I've got right here, 5 to 6 murders weekly in Agua Prieta. I have friends who live in Douglas, and they can hear at night gunfire across the line, some of it coming from 50 caliber machine guns, and Mexico has the strictest gun laws of anywhere in the world.
Well, that's all we've got for today's Hot Zone. Thanks for being a part of it, folks. If you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/hotzone, or you can just send a check to me, private message me, and I'll give you the address, or it's through PayPal at hotzoneholton@gmail.com. Everything that we bring in donations is not to make money. This is to give to people in need. In Venezuela, we were able to give out over $1,000, and we've raised another $1,000 since I got back. I will be back in Venezuela at the end of this week, and anything you send between now and then is going to go straight to the people who need it the most, and we'll show you that on camera. So rather than just watch the news, why don't you help make the news better for the people who are affected through us here at the Hot Zone? Thanks for watching.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.